I've noticed a lot of companies at the moment going through logistics outsourcing. They're either looking for alternative providers or they're outsourcing for the first time. And so I thought this week, let me give you 8 key steps to logistics outsourcing so that you can do it successfully. Coming right up. So logistics outsourcing can be a little bit complicated if you haven't done it before. There's lots of moving parts, but if you do it right, you should have a really good outcome. So let me step you through the steps that I use with our consulting clients, 8 simple steps for outsourcing, and it will help you get it right. So step number 1, this is going to sound very obvious, but have clear outsourcing objectives. There can be different objectives around the business. Maybe some people are supporting it because they think they're going to save on cost. Maybe some are thinking it'll improve service. Maybe some are thinking, we'll have access to better expertise and technology. All of those can be valid reasons, but you need to have a collective sense in the business of what your real objectives are in terms of logistics outsourcing. And I've said it many times on this channel, cost is not necessarily going to be one of them. So if you think of it in simplistic terms, if you're running your own warehousing operation, for example, and you want to outsource it to a third party and you're going to get them to run it and allow them to make a profit doing it, how would they do that cheaper than you're doing it? Unless you're very inefficient or unless they are going to conduct your operation in a multi-user facility. But saving cost is not always going to be possible. But number 1, be very clear on why you're doing it. Number 2, identify exactly what is being outsourced. Now, this might sound like a bit of a dumb question, but I've seen these things go off the rails far too many times because there are other, and let's keep on the topic of warehousing for a moment, what elements of customer service, there could be returns, there could be all kinds of other activities, managing inventory. You need to be crystal clear on exactly what it is that is being outsourced internally and, of course, in your documentation going out to the market. And I've seen a few 3PLs surprised when they've won a contract and sort of said, oh, you want us to do that as well? You never mentioned that. So clarity right up front. Number 3, approach suitable suppliers. So what do I mean by that? Don't necessarily go to the market, asking 101 suppliers to bid on your work, most of whom perhaps don't have the capability or the experience to support you. Be an educated buyer. You should know the key players who are ideally suited to look after your market segment. You should approach those. And then I always suggest maybe a newcomer on the block to see what they've got to offer, maybe a bit of an outsider, but there is no point in basically going to every available 3PL if they're not going to match the capability that you're looking for. You're wasting people's time, you're looking like an uneducated buyer, and they're not going to take you seriously. So number 4, I've spoken about this a few times, provide detailed data and service needs. There is a whole sort of section of your tendering documentation which should address data. Things like, order profiles, product masters, picking productivity profiles, all that kind of stuff. So let's stick with the warehousing example for a moment. If you're asking me as a 3PL, for example, to quote on running your warehouse, I need all of that data and those metrics to understand the size of warehouse, the best storage media to use, the best type of picking to use, how many staff I'm going to need, all those sort of things. If you don't provide detailed data, I'm going to be guessing. And what does that mean to you, the client? I'm going to have to put padding in there. I'm going to put a bit of extra resource, a bit of extra cost, because I haven't seen enough visibility of the data. So again, clarity, detail, really important. Number 5, I always suggest structuring your RFT, your request for tender or request for proposal, in a very structured way so that it makes comparison of offers easy. So let's say you're going out to 3 or 4 companies, you're going to have those bids coming back to you. I would be asking for them to be structured in a specific way so that it makes it very easy to make comparisons. And number 6 is part of that, because you need to adopt a very rigorous and objective evaluation process. So how I do it, for example, I match the evaluation sheet with the RFT document. So maybe there's a section which talks about how they're going to deal with the order picking, for example. The section in the RFT will match exactly the section on the evaluation sheets, so that it's very easy for those evaluating the tenders almost to do a page turn. Okay, this is what they're offering in systems. Here's the section where I'm going to grade them on systems. Don't make it difficult for people. And in terms of evaluation, I do a lot of this with our consulting clients. I'm never scoring the 3PLs. That's not my job too. It's the client's task to pick who they want to work with. But my role is to guide them through the process so that they understand what they're looking at and to help them through the evaluation. I generally ask for at least 4 or 5 people within the client organisation to be scoring these quotes as they come in. The most I've had was 14. It was for a very big multinational company, and it was great. We had people from finance, operations, IT, HR, and they all had different perspectives, valuable perspectives on the companies that they would like to undertake the work. So do have a cross-section of people, and that evaluation being done as objectively as possible, and I literally use a score sheet, allows you then to challenge people's grades. So again, how I do it with clients, I get all of the people who've been grading the quotes into a room, and we go through them one by one. I have all the scores up on the wall, and we might say, well, Fred, you've scored this one 5, but everybody else has scored them 9. Fred, do you want to explain why on that particular element, maybe it was picking methodologies, why have you scored them 5 and everyone else scored them 9? And this way it allows people to be challenged, to, if you like, justify their scores. It highlights maybe where people have misunderstood something. It creates some really good debate across the team. It absolutely takes out any favoritism, because conversely, if everyone else had marked 5 and Fred has marked 10, we'd be going, Fred, what do you know about this company that we don't? Because we've all marked them 5. We haven't seen any evidence in the documentation here that they deserve a 10. So the evaluation process is really important. Number 7, undertake careful joint implementation planning. So when you are down then to your final selected partner for your logistics operation, whatever that might be, do the joint planning, get their project manager in together with your project manager, and that's going to ensure joint planning will make sure that things are done realistically, that it's done within reasonable timeframes, that it's resourced properly, and so on. I have to say, before any of my clients make their final selection in an outsourcing process, I always insist that they meet the implementation manager. So, for example, if it was going to be warehouse outsourcing, I would be urging the client to ask to meet the person who's going to manage the warehouse when it's outsourced, and also if it's a different person who's going to manage the implementation, because it's really important that you get on well with those people, that you have faith and trust in those people. And then number 8, the final one, when you've actually implemented this new 3PL contract, make sure that you manage the contract in line with agreed KPIs. So all through your RFT process, all through your discussions and negotiations, you will have developed a number of KPIs that both parties are agreed that this is how the contract's going to be measured. Make sure you measure the contract against those KPIs and have regular management updates. And that's probably one of the most important in the list. So there we go, 8 key steps on logistics outsourcing. I've probably been involved in this hundreds of times over the last 30 years. Feel free down below, have you got any tips that you could add for logistics outsourcing? Do you have any questions for logistics outsourcing? Love to hear down in the comments below. But finally, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.